Resale is a channel. And for brands that are building that as a channel, and if we're going to expect this channel to grow to be 10, 20, 30% of a brand's revenue, it's got to have equal or better margin. No business is going to do this where they don't make money or don't make enough. I mean, they're not going to grow the channel. And so let's just start with that as a premise. And that is the case for many, if not all of our brands now, but it's a constant kind of North Star that we work toward. And that happens with technology that's built for resale. Likewise, thank you for having me. Looking forward to it. Yeah, absolutely. Before Trove, I spent most of my career at Walmart. I had led global strategy, e-commerce strategy, and at some point, really the right way to say it is I really ended up right place, right time, and essentially got pushed into starting sustainability at Walmart. Needless to say, it opened my eyes to a million things that I hadn't come across before. And I became fairly obsessed with items. One thing you realize in sustainability and retail is that it's all about the items in the stores. The stores are fine, the packaging, the trucks, all that, but really the items and the way the items are made. And so as I got deeper in, I again became a bit obsessive about these items and how they were made and moved from sustainability to private brands with the thought that if I wrote the check for private brands or own brands inside Walmart, this is naive now, I would simply change the way these items were made and we'd take care of the way we're doing things and things would be better. And the reality is that the systems are so big and that the change needed is equally big and we really need to do models. So after several years of that, ended up leaving Walmart to start Trove with the idea that these new models couldn't just be talked about. We had to go figure them out. And really, brands needed a way to grow without growing new production. And that's a key that maybe we can come back to. But really, the key of sustainability for the things in our lives, for the shirts we wear, pants, any soft lines, hard lines, retail items, it is being able to grow without growing new production. And the best way that we have found to do that is to sell the items that brands make multiple times. And so that was the start of Trove, is to pioneer these new models, make them so obvious for brands that it just becomes the way things are done. 100%. And what is, just like you said it, I mean, it shouldn't be surprising, but I've been in this space for 10 plus years now. And every year we have the same story. And every year the story is more true. The numbers continue to represent the customer shift that we're in the midst of. It's really that. It's a way that we choose to shop, which is if we can find a brand that we might not have access to today or might not be able to step into, but we can afford that brand. It's an aspirational brand, it's accessible. We're in. There's a treasure hunt element that is critical. And for many customers, the understanding the values that we have in sustainability and the understanding that buying an item that has already been produced, so not a net new item being produced, is a positive in a way that people can vote with how they shop. So I think those are three of the major drivers. The number of brands in this space, the ability to do this, those are all supportive as well. But there's a trend that is still early, but is absolutely inevitable. It's $100 billion global industry today, resale, and it is the fastest growing sector inside retail. It is expected to reach 200 billion over the next 5 years globally. It's both, but clearly this is being led, as you said, it's being led by Gen Zs and millennials, but really Gen Zs. But it is every demographic group. There is something taking place. And one way to think about it that we started as a comparison when we launched the first brand, Patagonia, to really be in this space. This is 6 years ago. We spent a lot of time looking at pre owned cars. And if you think about what, not just Gen Zs, but what every demographic group appreciates is if you're going to buy a pre owned Mercedes, buy it from the Mercedes dealer. They know the car, you get the good coffee, like you're just part of that experience. And when we're buying a brand that we aspire to, we like buying from the brand. We trust the brand. And we've seen that with the data that we have. In fact, 60 plus percent of customers who buy a pre owned Patagonia or pre owned Arc'teryx are brand new to Patagonia and Arc'teryx. In other words, they have never bought from those brands before. So, incredible customer acquisition strategy. And the second is that these brands, just like the automotive dealers, know where their items are. Right? I mean, REI knows who's bought a kid's sleeping bag over the last 10 years. So when they see demand for pre owned kids' sleeping bags, they know where to find them, which brings members in their case, but customers back into stores. We see a 2x improvement in loyalty when brands are able to re engage in this way. So it's just one of the ways that customer expectations are evolving, and what brands need to do is stay close to customers. You mentioned you are a millennial. I'm curious if your shopping habits have changed or if you are close to people where you see a shift like this. Yes and no. The awareness is still incredibly low for brands. In other words, the awareness that a brand that I aspire to or appreciate is actually I can go find Warren Wear's Patagonia's program, right? Patagonia's resale program. So I can go find a pre-owned Patagonia on patagonia.com. Oftentimes people will say, where do I find that? And I would say Patagonia, right? Or REI, or find it at Lululemon, like find it at the brand that you shop at. And so I think that there's still very low awareness. And that is what is 2022, the year we just finished, which is amazing, finally. The year we just finished was a watershed year for branded recommerce. We went from 31 brands globally who offered trade in and resale to 120 plus. So over the last 6 years, we've been adding, 5, 10, a few more brands. Last year, 31 to 120. What is true today, though, with all those brands in the space is brands are doing it very differently. And there's a very different level of scale. So one of the big distinctions in the model that is playing out right now, peer to peer has been a real innovation that's allowed a lot more brands to launch, right, leading to the 120. But the experience for brand customers is very different. So it requires you to list an item and then not know if that item is going to be purchased by someone else or not. The brands have a lot less control in the brand, and there's a lot less scale in the model. So TBD, it will be seen whether brands who use that model will actually develop the scale we're talking about. What we have always favored, and the brands that we support do, is owning these items just like they own first sale items. So when you walk into a Lululemon, you don't have to, when you're looking for a pair of yoga pants, you can buy the yoga pants. You don't have to wait. You don't have to negotiate with someone. You don't have to deal with someone who might be selling the pants. You can buy the yoga pants. And we've always believed that for all of us and for this to really scale, it's got to be as easy as it is to walk in and buy what you want, only you can buy that same item from the brand with the same trust, but pre owned. And when you're no longer using an item, it's got to be just as easy to hand it back and get value back out of it. So a jacket that no longer fits, a winter jacket a child has outgrown, you just walk it back, you send it back, you drop it off, and you get money back. And so we've always believed that the model that is going to work for customers is one where you don't expect a lot of work. You just make the options available and you make them incredibly easy. And we will see. So we've got a lot of brands in the space right now. I think that's going to be great overall. But this year, we will see which brands are able to take those new offerings and scale them and how that happens. And that's going to be essential for the future we want to see. There are a few things you touched on there I think are really important. The first, every brand should be as protective of their brand as Lululemon is. Brands that really care about their brand, those are the best brands. Those are the brands that we want to work with because those are the items that we would all appreciate having after their first sale. No one's ever really excited about a pre-owned super cheap car, right? Like people buy pre-owned cars because you can move into a Lexus or whatever it is. So they're the brands that really care about the brand, and every brand, the brands that aren't able to do that, and I really think it's not that don't care about that, I think it's aren't able to do that, are just going to be less successful going forward. We talk about internally the brands that are the most picky about the brands are the ones we want to be working with. The more picky, the better, because those are brands that in the open market, they've lost control of how their items are being merchandised, right? What they sit next to, what the pricing is, how they're posted. Whereas when a brand like Lululemon brings this back in house, they regain control of that secondary market. They can choose how they want to price a secondhand item, right? A previously owned item, what gift card value they want to hand back, how they want to describe it, merchandise it, all of that. That's all about brand. So I think every strong brand needs to be doing this themselves, really to protect their brand. And that's why it's important for them to be owning this model, not to be doing it peer to peer, frankly, and certainly not to be doing it on a third party marketplace. They've got to own this. And the biggest reason that brands aren't doing that is just the number of things in front of them right now. This is a difficult time for any brand, any retailer. And this is true innovation. And it's always most difficult to do the innovation you have to do in difficult economic times. But the upside is the greatest. What I would say is there are a lot of providers out there like Trove, not just Trove, but I mean, we're obviously one. But these providers make it so much easier for a brand to understand what the steps are, to kind of hold hands and onboarding and get these things launched and do them right. And the biggest thing for a brand is work with someone you can trust who's got the experience and protect your brand. As a starting point for any, we talk about what we do for how we see our role for brands, which is providing a business channel, right? A channel just like e-commerce is a channel, physical stores are a channel, wholesale is a channel. Resale is a channel. And for brands that are building that as a channel, and if we're going to expect this channel to grow to be 10, 20, 30% of a brand's revenue, it's got to have equal or better margin. No business is going to do this where they don't make money or don't make enough. I mean, they're not going to grow the channel. And so let's just start with that as a premise. And that is the case for many, if not all of our brands now, but it's a constant kind of North Star that we work toward. And that happens with technology that's built for resale. There is bespoke technology that needs to be configured for a brand. So there are 100 different choices around how items show up, what the condition grade is, but that is all built into technology that we offer. And it's technology that makes this world possible at scale. And that technology isn't just the commerce experience and the integration, it also includes supply chain and operations. So the ability to list an item with computer vision and AI, understand with a rubric that doesn't exist in, doesn't have to exist on a laminated sheet, what the condition grade of an item is. Those are the type of technology, I don't know if I'd call them breakthroughs, but investments that people like Trove, we've been investing hundreds of millions of dollars in that technology, where a brand then can get this offering off the ground and scale it. There are a lot of brands out there that are moving 100 items, 200 items. REI was a great data point. In 2021, they shared they moved 1 million items in the pre-owned space. So the difference in scale that the technology enables isn't, 2x, 3x. We're talking about 100x, some cases, more. So I think that scale is really enabled by the technology, and the technology both allows that and it allows the understanding from an item level up of how brands make good money doing it, how they make margins that allow them to grow this as an additional revenue driver. Sure. I mean, one of the biggest drivers of profit to be made in the secondary market is it's the price point of the original item. And, resale where the brand is really owning the second, third, and fourth sale of an item that they've designed, they've made, they've sold the first time. There's more margin to be done in an item that's got a higher price point. As important and related to that is the desirability of that item in the secondary market. Right? The resale programs that we run with major brands like Lululemon or Arc'teryx or On Running, Allbirds, etc. Those are brands that have incredible demand in the secondary market, and they're designed around which items they bring back, how they bring them back so they can make money. But there are pitfalls in program design that brands need to be aware of. And the biggest one is probably underestimating the technology to deal with items as single items as opposed to SKUs with order quantities. So most formal retail is built around a parent or child SKU or stock keeping unit SKU. And then you have, maybe 100,000 units. Every unit looks the same. You can process every unit in the same way. Whereas when you're buying items back from customers, you've got to understand roughly what the condition of that unique item is, not 100,000, but that unique item. Because you might hand a customer a larger gift card or a smaller gift card, depending on the item. In either way, you could either lose money with too large of a gift card, or you could end up with missing the best options because you're not giving enough money on a gift card. And having technology, we've got Trove technology with 5 partners and over 700 US stores. Having that type of technology in store, online, allows brands to really automate those type of decisions in ways they expect because it's how modern retail works. And that's based on technology. One of the questions that investors have always asked, and I'm sure they ask everyone in the space, is why don't brands just do this themselves? Right? It's always one of those, and it's not quite an eye roll question, but if you're inside this space, you know that is not what anyone is really concerned about. What everyone's concerned about is how do we do it in a way that's really customer centric, where a brand takes back ownership and gets to make all the decisions brands make day in, day out about the brand, but can do that at scale across millions of their items and build a growth strategy that's going to work for the brand and their customer, right? Not every strategy, not every program design is right for every brand and every customer. And one of the real values that Trove provides is just it's not our first rodeo. And there's a lot of program design and a lot of, sometimes hard learnings, but learnings that now benefit people who are entering the space now of how to do this in brand, elevate the brand through resale and do it at scale and build a new profit center that's going to make increasing money. And one of the things I often think about as well is just be ready as the market shifts. Like we don't know if I think this is going to be 10 to 30% of all retail revenue, but you don't have to agree with that. You just have to know there's a possibility of that and it's on track for that. So as that plays out, have a business model that's ready to scale as your customer continues to evolve. I think it's really that simple. I think one of the it's almost seems obvious, but can I give you two? I don't know which one is. So one is a simple integration to existing systems. We have reached a point in resale where companies like Trove brands, I should say, brands like Patagonia have a fantastic front end website, patagonia.com. We don't have to have a separate one, just integrate it with the front end. The second is really operations. And operations is about the integration with warehouse management systems order management systems, ERP, allow this to take the next level of scale based on those integrations. And brands might not start there, but as their programs scale, they need to work with partners that are able to take them there. Because beyond a few 100,000 items, you're going to want to be pulling all the data into a business intelligence or BI tool. You're going to want to be able to cross merchandise products and basically continue to blend new and pre owned items in a way that makes sense for customers. You're going to want to integrate trade in points around the customer journey to make it easy to have more customer interaction. So that second point around operations is really critical. So integration and operations are two that we are making incredible headway with right now with our brand partners, and I think we will see play out in the coming years. It's essential. It is, but it's playing out differently than at least me. I couldn't speak for anyone else who's been in the space for, many years. But while it's progressing in strangely the way that I think is obvious and it should. It's happening with more it's like almost happening in color where I kind of pictured it in black and white, if that makes any sense. As it happens, there is so much nuance to what is taking place, and I find that phenomenally exciting. Why, the things that are exciting me right now are the number of brands in this space. And this is the single most important retrofit on a sustainability topic anywhere in retail, bar none. This is for any brand that really cares about sustainability, you have got to have a strategy to get more money out of the things you make. So I don't know if we can agree to that, but I would contend that. And so as this plays out, I find it phenomenally exciting. And I don't think it doesn't have to be about sustainability. If you're a luxury brand, and you go on Walmart.com right now or Amazon, you're going to find 1,000 Louis Vuitton bags right now on Amazon. There are 1,000 Louis Vuitton bags on Walmart. And so any brand that has a brand to take care of and to build and have momentum and evolve with culture is a brand that needs to protect itself. And these days, in the secondary market as it grows, these companies are able to buy back from us and sell to us. And any brand that is a true brand is going to have a strategy for owning their secondary market. So not only is it playing out in an exciting way, it's still early for branded recommerce. We're going to see a lot more progress on branded recommerce, and how exciting to be early in an industry that really matters and is inevitably going to play out and just play any part in accelerating that. I think it's phenomenally exciting. Yeah, I mean, overall, it was I mean, 3 of Zara, H&M, Shein launched a resale platform. I don't think a lot of people are sitting around hungry how could we possibly access a Shein, an item from Shein these days? People know how to do that. They can go buy an item for $4. It's not a hard thing to do. And so in the end, these players getting into resale, I think will be a bit of a yawn. It's probably had more talk than it even deserves. It's certainly not a sustainability play by any means. Every one of those players has a strategy in front of them that could make better decisions in terms of sustainability. I don't think that a resale platform is a sustainability answer for any of them, And I don't think it's going to be the answer for customers. I don't think it's serving a real need. So in the end, what I'm far more excited about is the platforms that are evolving to support the brands that have the opportunity to really change the way we shop. And that when Patagonia themselves sells a nano puff for the fifth time to a fifth, let's just call it a fifth child who goes skiing, that is 3 to 4 jackets that are never made. That is a brand that is gaining customers, gaining market share, gaining loyalty. That's a brand that's making money in part now in a growing channel from existing items, not from new production. And if you're a brand that is not doing that, you're going to be losing market share to Patagonia. So kind of do that. Let your customers move away from you at your own peril is what I would say. And I don't think the fast fashion players getting into this is going to make a whole lot of difference to that. That's right. It's a double-edged sword. It is, like I said, it's a channel. It's a channel that's got to be built out on its own that makes sense for customers, and it's got to integrate with other channels. E-commerce is a good example. You wouldn't look at e-commerce and say, if you had a single metric for e-commerce, it would probably be market shares you serve your customers better. And if there was a single metric here, it would probably be similar, right? It's how do you as a brand do that? But underneath that is the scale of the program itself. In other words, is this a one time story that you're going to get a headline for because you're going to go sell 35 items and in the end, you're not really building a growth strategy? You had a story. Or is this something that is going to, you've got the ability to measure new customers coming in, how those customers stick with the brand, the loyalty you're able to build by keeping customers close to you based on items where they've worn, they've enjoyed, but they no longer need. Are you building revenue? Is it happening at good profit margins? And are you able to scale the platform to millions of items where this can become a meaningful percentage of your business? And on the sustainability front, which we've touched on, I think there's a lot, especially the fast fashion players, there is a lot of people are touting resale as a sustainability move. And it is if it's done right. I think there are also immense risks in some of the business and incentive models that players out there have in resale where they're really not making money as a channel. They're only making money, let's say, on a gift card for people to go buy, a new item. What I just said is not a growth channel for a brand. And ultimately, I would call it yellow, really not red, but there is a risk in those type of business models. There's risk of greenwashing. And so I think that brands also need to navigate, if they're going to tout this as a sustainability move, they need to navigate the business model underlying how they're doing resale. And ultimately, they should make sure that they are building a growth channel in the way that it's set up. Could be 10, 20% of every item moved to a customer. If they're doing that, then they're really setting themselves up for really decoupling growth of the business and brand from CO2. If they're not, I think it's really important to look at that and ask, is it just a marketing program called sustainable? Yeah, a few, and this is really based on you might be able to tell. I love this space, phenomenally excited about what's happening right now in this space. In that we on LinkedIn, we started doing about, boy, it's probably been 5 months now. We do a weekly resale edit where we look at all the news in resale because there is a lot going on and we put some commentary around it and we publish it every week. And what's been great about that is all the feedback. So you can find that on LinkedIn. It's called the Resale Edit. feel free to subscribe to that. And if you do and you read something, you agree, disagree, but let me know. I mean, that's the reason to do it, is to have those conversations. I think one great thing any brand can do is be in the space. You can't learn from reading articles. You can only learn about your customers and your brand from being in a space. And one of the fantastic points in the past few years is the number of players like Trove that are now out in the market to support brands. So once as exploring in the space, meet with people, meet with Trove, meet with other people, you will learn a lot about the space itself. And I think that is fantastic. So, really, what I'm saying is there's a lot of resourcing out there to get started. Getting started is the most important thing. Think about not just having the first moment, but really think about, are you building a program that has the potential to really drive scale and build you a growth channel that doesn't rely on new production? And if you're doing that as a brand and you're providing options that customers are evolving toward and shopping, and you've got the ability to grow that as customers move toward it, then you're staying close to your customers. And that's protecting your brand, staying close to customers are kind of the same things we always come back to. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're at the beginning, right? So we're just getting started. I mean, I couldn't be more proud of the brands we get to work with day in and day out. I love them. There are many more brands that are coming into the fold right now. I'm phenomenal. I think 2023 is going to be a year that luxury really wakes up, and there is no more exciting space than, premium items for all of us from those brands, and that's a really big opportunity. The integration I mentioned is a big opportunity, but I mean, ultimately, our job is to provide these growth strategies for every brand out there, where it becomes as obvious to us that, I mean, someday I imagine in my mind talking to someone young, and they'll ask legitimately, they'll say, "And what happened when you just weren't using that Patagonia jacket anymore? What, you just like left it in your closet?" And I would have to answer with a straight face and say, "Yeah, we just weren't very smart. Like, we just didn't really know what we were doing back then." It's just so obvious. And the hard part is, back to your very first question about why start a business here, which is to figure out how this space works for brands, because brands have the ability to change the customer world. Our lives are filled with brands, and we're seeing it now, but it's still early. So, so much to go. Fantastic. Likewise. Thank you.